How's it going, everybody? I am Preston Johnson. Welcome to Last Word Cheetah, brought to you by BetsTV.
As a general life philosophy.
That's exactly right. You're a fish.
Qwan, by the way, my producer, DeQwan Young, doing a good job. He'll be taking the calls. How you doing today, bud?
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm trying to give away $25,000. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Welcome to the show, BetsTV, bringing you Last Word Cheetah. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Last Word Cheetah, brought to you by BetsTV. I am Preston Johnson, your host, alongside DeQwan Young, co-hosting, producing over there, giving you guys a smile before we went live. How you doing today, by the way? It's a good day. It's Tuesday.
It's always a good day because it's Tuesday.
I have never heard anybody say that before in their lives. Tuesdays is like, that's got to be like the sixth best day of the week. I just ranked them in my head in like 2 seconds, so it's got to be sixth.
It's the bridge to the middle of the week. That's it. Look, you just got to get to the next day. Every day is the best day of the week until it's Sunday.
I wasn't planning on doing days of the week power ratings today, but for sure Monday's the worst.
I want to see yours.
I mean, as a kid, going to church when I didn't want to go to church on Sundays, I hated Sundays. Maybe that was sixth. Now I appreciate the weekend. I appreciate the time with family. I think Tuesday's the sixth worst day, but I like your positive attitude because you said it's still good. It's a good day. Every day's a good day when it's Tuesday. Something like that. I love it. All right. Today, we're taking your calls as usual. Phone lines are open from the get-go, 661-515-BETS. Your games you're betting today or this week from NHL, MLB, Euro Cup. I had someone telling me about some little conspiracy theory that Czech Republic and England are going to draw today, or at least it will be close because of some incentives for England not to actually win. If you want to talk about that, give us a ring. Or the NBA playoffs, which, look, we got a game 2 tonight. It's Clippers, Suns. I went on a rant with Ty Lue yesterday, and I'm probably going to hit on a few more things today. But before that, we got to get into a pretty funny story that I did skip yesterday because we had a ton of Game 7 NBA stuff over the weekend we needed to hit on. Then we started taking a few calls. We got into Qwan fades. But this is a funny story. So, Qwan, I need you to tell me if I crossed a line of some sort, okay? Because on Friday night, Game 6, Clippers Jazz. Clippers just coming off that big upset in Game 5. They're up 3-2 in the series. And halftime, it's a 21-point game. I'm thinking, hey, it's Friday night. This game's over. No Kawhi Leonard. Clippers are down 21 at halftime. There's no chance the Jazz lose this. Things are finally clear here down in Southern California. We can go out, no masks. My wife and I both vaccinated. We're like, all right, maybe we should go on our first date since pre-2020, March, COVID. First time we ever got a babysitter since before that time. We're like, let's go to a movie, which we saw In the Heights, which was really good, by the way, if you're into musicals. And if you like Hamilton, similar type of vibe as Hamilton, the play. We'll do another episode on In the Heights another day. So I leave at halftime. Mistakes were made. I lost faith in the Clippers. We're right there. The movie's going. Starting, we're 10, 15 minutes in. And look, I'm a degenerate gambler. I always have the phone nearby, either buzzing or just to light up to see if something's happening. If my phone starts lighting up or buzzing a lot, then Qwan, I know something's going on. And sure enough, into the third quarter, my phone's going off. I'm blowing up. I take a peek. The Clippers are down 2 points, late third quarter. What's going on? Oh, Terrence Mann sitting with 34 out of the blue. Terrence Mann just goes absolutely bonkers. So I'm sitting there in the movie, and I'm checking my phone down over by my pocket, kind of hiding it. And I realized I have to watch this fourth quarter. I'm going to have to stream this game, this fourth quarter, on my phone. So I was the guy that's in the movie streaming on his phone. In this case, it was Game 6, fourth quarter of Clippers Jazz. I dimmed the screen light. I dimmed it. Lowest setting possible. But at what cost? I remind you, this is the first time I'd taken my wife out since before March 2020, and 15 minutes into the dang movie starting, I'm sweating fourth quarter Jazz Clippers. Terrence Mann's he's dropping a 40 ball. They're down 25. Rudy Gobert's doing his Baguette Biombo stuff. And I'm like, I have to watch this game because at some point, it's like ball is life. You got to just man's got to do what he's got to do. But did I cross the line? Did I go too far? What are your thoughts on that situation I put myself in?
There's no possible way that you are not in the doghouse for at least the next 3 months. When I say you're probably going to have to buy flowers every day for the entirety of June and maybe July. Like, when we went and saw Spiral, I saw you pull your phone out, and I am a cinephile. I don't like when people pull their phone out in the movies and talk. And I got friends.
He didn't bring this up until now.
I didn't. I let people do what they want.
Sure.
But when I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, he pulls his phone out in the movies. And the audacity of you. I'm going to speak on behalf of your wife now. The audacity for the first time in a year.
Over a year. I respect your commitment to basketball. But you're gonna be in trouble. I know. What did she say? So this is what it comes down to. First and foremost, she's used to it. Even though it's been a year and a half since we gone out, the timing was just absolute worst possible for me. Like it was one of the crazier finishes of like a playoff series we've really seen when you look at it, break it all down. And she's just seen me sweating games on my phone when we've gone out so many times that I think for her, she didn't really care or notice for sure. But at the same time, she did take the kids and go to Denver to visit some family today. Not sure if they're related, not sure if they're connected or not, but they're not here. I'll just leave it at that. So maybe through June or July, I have to make it up to her. But it was an interesting situation. I talked to a few other people about it. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. If you want to call, if you've had similar degenerate situations, you've taken girls out, guys out, if we have girls that want to call, he, she, whatever it may be. If you've been out and need to sweat games or check the phone, you remember way back in the day, actually. And then we'll start talking Clippers, Suns, game 2 tonight. Is it Slingbox, I believe it was? Had a commercial where a guy's actually like sweating the football game while he's eating dinner on a date. And he like keeps looking and peeking at his lap and the game's playing. And it was basically like that was the generation of you can start watching games on your phone. And then sure enough, now it's super easy with even just like YouTube TV or other apps or streams or whatever. So, I mean, it's going to be more and more a thing if you're not used to it or hasn't happened to you yet. Giddy up. I didn't even have like money on the actual game. Sometimes I can at least blame that. If my wife's wondering, I'm like, oh, I got like, a few $1,000 on this or whatever. Not even. I just wanted to watch the end of the game. Terrence Mann.
It was game 7, though.
It was game 6.
Game 6?
Because they were at home. They were up 3-2. I figured, at halftime, they're down 21. They're going to lose. They're going to have to go back to Utah, and then we'll watch game 7. I was like, let's go to a movie. Literally, like 15 minutes in.
That's like the first bad call you've made in a while.
I'm not sure how to take that. Are you being sarcastic?
Good. That's a compliment.
I mean, the bets I've brought up have done pretty well so far, but like the live in-game decision of let's bag this game and go to a movie, yes, that was incorrect. Extremely. Let's talk about game 2, though. Clippers Suns. Look, I gave Ty Lue a really hard time yesterday. By the way, 661-515 bets. Tell us we want winners from you today, anything across the board. Or if you want to tell us about degenerate streaming, checking scores while you've been on dates, any stories related to that, please send them in because I'm having a hard time feeling better about myself after a couple of days and thinking about this a little longer. Ty Lue decides to empty the bench, play everyone like he has to start the Dallas series, to start the Utah series. He goes down 0-2 in both. Only this time, look, Kawhi Leonard not playing basketball. And Chris Paul was out game 1, so I was frustrated that he didn't take advantage of the best chance that they had to win a road game in Phoenix in this series. Now, what do we know about tonight? Well, we know that Kawhi Leonard's out, but Chris Paul's out again. So they have to do it tonight, right? Like he has to go to an 8-man rotation. He absolutely has to treat this as a must-win. And we've seen, look, we did last word yesterday. I said, hey, this is going to be frustrating. It's going to be annoying. Chris Paul's probably not going to play game 2. +6 is just crazy value on the Clippers side. It's +4.5 now across the board. I think there's 1.5 I see on screen here. 1.5. It was the value play. It's going to be frustrating to watch this tonight, but that's what I anticipate is we're going to get the 8-man. We have to steal one in Phoenix while we wait and see what Kawhi's status is going home. to game 3. They just can't afford to go down 0-2 again. I have no opinion on the total, although it has dropped a few points today for people that are watching the market. It opened more like 224. It went to 224.5 at some spots. It's down to 222.5, 223. I have an interesting one, and I'm not sure if it's part of your Qwan Fade segment later. I know you kind of gear up and you don't really tell me, so we can have a nice little back and forth, and it's genuine. But Devin Booker's points prop, remember, he just dropped 40. It was officially a 40-point triple-double. I realized I said 39 yesterday. He got to 40. I don't know if it was a free throw late that I just had forgotten about. 40-point triple-double, first triple-double in a long time for Suns in the playoffs. His prop total tonight, 31.5. And I shall say this. Look, the Clippers obviously know when Chris Paul's on the floor, they need to play anyone but Devin can beat us. And that's what I would expect. And Ty Lue is good at making adjustments in the series. We've seen that. I just don't know why he waits till they're down 0-2. But I pulled up some interesting numbers on game 1. So let me find those. It's about the shooting frequencies based on spots on the floor in that game 1. 18% of the Suns shots were long mid-range jump shots. Overall, closer mid-range, mid-range, long mid-range, 42% of their shots were mid-range. Now, they were making an extremely high rate of them. Part of that had to do with Devin Booker being hot, scoring 40. The Clippers took 15% of their shots from corner 3. All of their shots, half of them were threes. You look at like shot quality, expectation, and how the teams played. The Clippers actually, and then again, they were leading at the start of that fourth quarter before Cousins and Rondo just gave it away. It lines up. I don't think you can be upset that Devin Booker and the Suns took 42% of their shots from the mid-range, and that you're taking half of your shots from 3, and a good portion of those were considered wide open. It wasn't like the Clippers were forcing it. So I know it's moved down from 6 when we did this yesterday. It's 4.5. But one, I still like the Clippers side. I think this is do or die for them, clearly. I've made that known. But I also think they're going to defend Devin Booker as sharply as possible, but also going to live with him shooting mid-range. And it's hard to score 32-plus in a game when you're shooting a bunch of mid-range. It just is. All of the prop player projections that I look at and people that I talk to have it lower. So I like under. I'm not sure if you have an opinion on Devin Booker. No Chris Paul again tonight, but I'm going to go under. Is it part of Qwan Fades? Am I getting you out of your box early, or do you want to wait on it?
I was going to include a Booker prop.
For points?
For points.
Okay.
It was going to be a third. I might move against it. I might move away from it. I
talked you out of it already?
I don't want Qwan Fades and the Cheetah crossover yet. Like, I still need to talk through my bets and everything.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it.
So in 20 minutes we'll know where you're going.
I don't think he's gonna have that type of game again. I think those young guys, they're probably under hella stress. Like, he doesn't have CP3, all of that's falling on him now. So to expect consistency at a high level, the highest level, it's gonna be hard to replicate game 1, game 2, game 3. He's gonna have an off game, and I think 31's not really an off game, but that's something that you need in the playoffs.
That's what's kind of been crazy the last few years, especially. I feel like it started in that bubble last year. It's the way the NBA's played today. There's just so many more points.
Yeah. And
then it's the star players that can score and get tough buckets in isolation one-on-one when possessions are breaking down into shot clock. These guys are scoring 35 to 45 just like it's nothing. Like Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray last year, Donovan Mitchell again this year, Kawhi, Luka, Devin Booker now. 31.5 definitely, I feel like it's not the same 31.5 it was 5 years ago. It just isn't. But it's still, just to think he needs to, that's his average. That's his baseline, right? Like, maybe his median is a little bit under that. I think it should be more like maybe 29. So that's where I would lean. That's the direction I would going. Before we get into, one of our listeners had a question. He was unable to call in advance. He said, hey, heads up, I'm interested about this. Can you talk it through? Shout out Jackson. Once you do listen to this back, he's unable to call. But if you can call, 661-515-BETS. That is 661-515-2387. We'll talk about anything. Dating, degenerate gambling stories, actual sports, actual bets you're making. So he asked me, can you guys talk about the Finals MVP, which I believe we have a list of some prices that we can put up, and people can kind of get a scope of like the few favorites that we have. Now, his question was, what would you do between these two bets? He said you can bet the Bucks to actually win the NBA Finals. Look, they're big favorites against the Hawks. We talked about it yesterday. My true price for them to beat the Hawks is 83.5%, which is minus 505. I actually kind of liked the minus 400s, the low 400s you could get earlier on yesterday in the market. So would you bet them to win it all at plus 100 or plus 145 for Giannis to win the MVP? Now, this is what's interesting. And we can leave the graphic up so people can, we're going to talk to some of the other players. But I'm curious, if he had asked me a week ago, would I have actually said, yes, I think it's worthwhile going with Giannis if you want to make a Bucks futures bet? Because that extra 45 cents, that 1.45 to 1, I feel like a week ago I would have been like, Giannis, a little iffy, shooting a lot of threes. He hasn't necessarily been as efficient. Middleton's had to step up. It could easily be Chris Middleton or someone like that. Maybe it's Drew Holiday finally getting hot on the offensive side of the ball that gets them into that stage where, hey, Giannis might not even win NBA Finals MVP if the Bucks win it all. And if that's the case, then I would probably just bet them plus 100. But what changed now? The last 3 games, he stopped shooting three-pointers. He put up like a 40, 13, and 5 or something in a Game 7 on the road to beat Brooklyn. Injuries or not, we talked about that yesterday. The Bucks got out of it, right? They killed some of their demons. They're big favorites here, and then at that point against what's likely Phoenix in the NBA Finals, can they end up getting a W? I think it's worthwhile now, Jackson. So if you're listening, we appreciate the question. I think plus 145 is worthwhile. I don't see it. Chris Middleton's been kind of just hit or miss anyways. He had a few big games and then just disappeared in some others. Giannis has been the one player of consistency, I think, that you can rely on that's going to put up all of the numbers. Even in his bad games, right, he's still going to have the 25, 15, and 5 and some steals and blocks. So I like it. I think it's worthwhile now that you can get a disparity of 45 cents, which is pretty big for a plus 100 versus a plus 145. I will say this, Booker, Chris Paul, if you don't mind putting it back up one more time, they're the next favorites. In the end, they're probably going to beat the Clippers. I'm curious, just as a fan, I know everyone knows you're not like a huge bettor. Not yet. We're trying to get you there. We're trying to get you there. What's your perception of the Devin Booker versus Chris Paul dynamic for Phoenix? And if they were to actually win a title, is it because Booker keeps doing these 30-plus point games and is the guy they can run on scoring? Or is it the old veteran savvy Chris Paul that is able to kind of break down the defense and help these young guys will them to this big NBA championship W? From a price perspective, look, Chris Paul's almost twice as much value. He's plus 550. Devin Booker's plus 300. Which one do you prefer out of those two options?
I think it's going to boil down to the depth at which Phoenix wins. If it's a long, strenuous 6-7 games and tight knit, you get one of those Phoenix steals something in, whether it's Milwaukee, Atlanta, probably going to be Milwaukee. It's going to boil down to who performed in the clutch. And I don't think it's as narrative based, or it's going to be, because you know what you're getting from Devin Booker. And you know what you're getting from Chris Paul. It's going. Has there ever been co-MVPs in the finals? I feel like once.
I can look at that. Wait, what do you remember? Like recently?
No, I want to say the 90s.
You thinking back to your Detroit days when they beat the Lakers? You're like, man,
Rasheed
Wallace and Ben Wallace, the Wallace duo.
That was 2004. That was Chauncey. No, but I don't think if it's a blowout, I'm thinking Devin Booker's giving buckets and he's big performances is going to be Devin Booker. If it goes 7, they're going to find a way to give it to Chris Paul because he's going to lead, he's going to play defense, going to come up with a big stop, something like that if they get there and if he's playing.
So I'm looking back at a list of NBA Finals MVPs, not seeing going back to 1969. So I don't think it's ever happened. If I recall, there's 11 votes. This is off the top of my head. I could be wrong. I think there's 11 votes. And I remember it was weird that one year because, what's his name? Fred VanVleet got a vote out of the blue in that Toronto series, and Kawhi got the rest. Like, it didn't end up mattering. But there's a way somehow where if you had Again, I don't know how this would happen, but you have two like equal guys where like Giannis and Middleton or Chris Paul and Booker somehow each get 5, but then somehow like Dario Saric gets 1, like, or PJ Tucker for his defense on Booker gets 1, like, and then it's 5-5 and 1, and then I'm not sure who breaks the tie. Maybe they have like a second place that they.
Maybe I was thinking
count.
All-Star game. Yeah,
I'm sure that's probably more likely that it's happened in an All-Star game, but we'll see. I'm intrigued. Real quick, if you were to pick, if the Clippers somehow win it all without Kawhi, or Kawhi comes back and they pull this out of their, who do you think takes it down? Because I was looking at odds. Paul George is the favorite, deservingly so, because we're not sure about Kawhi. Kawhi would be an interesting NBA Finals MVP bet. There's a chance his ACL is just like blown out and they're keeping it under wraps and he never plays again the rest of the playoffs. But there's also a chance that like 100-1, he comes back in game 3 or 4, they win this series and they win it all, and you're getting 100-1 on the Clippers. Kawhi is probably going to be the reason that they win it all, right? So I thought that was an interesting dynamic. And then last is if the Hawks pull it off, it just got to be Trey, right?
It has to be. I don't see anybody. Herter has a couple of good games.
Kevin Herter, NBA Finals MVP. I feel like I've probably tweeted that before as a joke.
Yeah.
And now it's coming to fruition. Let's see.
I don't think it's funny watching the narrative of, there are no stars left and, these guys, LeBron's out, KD's out, what are we going to do? But, like, this is what you want. I think, Milwaukee hasn't had a championship since the 70s. Atlanta, long time. Who else is it? Phoenix and LA, like, no championship. So this is parity. This is the parity that everybody wants, and people are like already not excited about what's about to happen. So, if it was me, I would go. I think somehow CP3 is going to find a way to get it.
All right, there it is. Qwan, 5.5-1 on Chris Paul to win NBA Finals MVP. I don't hate it, and I don't think the Suns, obviously even against Milwaukee, I think that's going to be a fairly even series. I think my numbers will like Milwaukee some, but definitely winnable for either side. Real quick, looking up Kevin Herter stuff from my Twitter account. Nothing quite to the extent of NBA Finals Kevin Herter like back in 2019. But, by the way, shout out, the first time I heard it was Stanford Steve referred to him as Red Velvet. So that's his nickname, is Red Velvet. A lot of Red Velvet tweets from me. I follow a lot of Lakers media members and just like bloggers and stuff just because I'm a big Lakers fan. I'm a big NBA fan. This is a trade idea last year. You ready for this?
Yep.
By the way, 661-515-BETS. We're waiting for your calls. Let's talk over a few of the games that you guys like tonight. The Lakers get Kevin Herter and a 2021 second-round pick. The Hawks get Kyle Kuzma, JaVale McGee. So it was basically a Herter for a Kuzma swap, which a year ago, as a Lakers fan, you never would have done that.
Yeah.
And the reason being that you would even do this is the Lakers would have gotten $5 more million in cap room, easier to fill out the rest of the roster. You could have signed someone else like, maybe you could have kept Danny Green and somehow still gotten Dennis Schroeder or something, in the realm of having another 3-and-D wing guy. Instead, Kevin Herter wins Game 7 in Philadelphia for the Hawks over the 1-seed Philadelphia 76ers. And Kuzma made like 2 shots the whole series against the Suns. And I don't know how in the world that ended up being the worst a fake trade offer from a Lakers media member that was possible. But Kevin Herter, Red Velvet, he's officially here.
Ryan Jeffrey asked on the YouTube, did I miss the Papa Shot talk?
No, you guys want to hear about Papa Shot? All right. Feel free to call in again if people want to talk over some games, 661-515-BETS. But we'll get into it. And then we also need to break down Qwan's fades. And then we're going to talk a little Houston Texans. We're going to start bringing in some NFL discussion, some previews going forward. But, all right, I gotta set myself up here. All right, so this is a pretty funny story. Scott Blumstein, shout out, won the main event in the World Series of Poker 2017. Him and Justin Fan were traveling 2 weekends ago to San Diego to play a poker tournament. And I told Qwan, just like out of the blue last second, they were like driving past where I'm from, where I live in Orange County. As they're driving down the coast to go to San Diego, they're like, hey, we're just going to pick you up and we're going to play this tournament. I don't care that you're, trying to work on losing weight and eating healthily and not gambling. So I go, I'm like, it's fine. It was a small tournament. It was only a $575 buy-in. It was totally fun. And they both busted in like 2 hours out of the tournament. I make it through day one. I play pretty far into day two. And I finished 30th or 31st and made a little bit of money. So it was fun. It was great. After the tournament, though, before we drive back, we want to stop and get lunch. And so I haven't been hustled in a long time. So this is where this is going. I got straight up hustled. Now, the only reason I know Scott outside of just like the gambling space, poker, sports betting that crosses DFS, when I was living in Las Vegas, played basketball at the Lifetime Gym in Summerlin. And one night we were playing ball. And I know who Scott was at the time. This was like 2019. I knew he had won the main event like 2 years before. And this guy is just like crossing, step back, pull up 30-footers, just like no problem. And look, me and Scott, we're both bigger. We're both on the heavy side, but we both can shoot the rock. And I was like, man, this is my best friend. Like, this is destiny. I need to introduce myself. And so I did. I said, hey, I know who you are. And I played poker back in the day, and I bet on sports now. And then he's like, talking to me. Anyway, we get closer. We've been friendly ever since. But I forgot about this. Now jumping back to our trip to San Diego. I forgot that he can shoot a basketball. I'm always pretty good at shooting a basketball. I'm like, all right. We go out to lunch. While we're waiting for our table, there's a movie theater arcade inside this movie theater near where this tournament was. And there's a Pop-A-Shot little arcade basketball game. And the high score on there is 147. Now, there's different versions of the Pop-A-Shot game. In this particular version, it starts at 60 seconds. You shoot as many as you can. The final 20 seconds or 15 seconds, it starts moving sideways, and it's worth 3 instead of 2. If you get to a certain point, it resets, and you get 30 more seconds, and you can keep going. And if you get to a certain barrier, it resets again, and you can keep going. So you end up getting like the 60 seconds plus 30, plus 30, plus 30, plus 30. There's 5 levels. It ends up being like a 3-minute thing. I shatter this high score. So we're getting there. We're like, we got to play this. And Scott's, I did skip this part. Scott says, I'm going to go third. I'm going last. I was like, okay, I don't care. And Justin fans, I don't want to go first either. I was like, I'll go first. Fine. No problem.
Set the tone.
So I break it in the third round of 30 seconds. I break the high score. The ticket guy who's ripping tickets, it's a kid. He's like 16, 17 years old, is staring in awe. Like this fat bearded guy is just raining Pop-A-Shot. I break the high score. And anyway, I get to 250. I just smashed it. And I missed a lot. And the balls were a little flat, so I was playing strategy. I was using the backboard because I knew if they were flat, they'd hit the backboard and just fall in. So I was trying my best. And then Justin Fan jumps in, just out of the blue. He couldn't miss a shot. He got to 290 something and just crushed me. And I was like, wow, okay, this is amazing. We both just nailed that high score. Scott still has to go, but I was like, there's no way. In order to beat him, Scott's going to have to get to 300. And somehow Scott convinced me to lay. I laid minus 400 against Scott that he wouldn't beat Justin's high score or get the high score because it was the high score before was only 147. I held it for about 3 minutes. Then Justin had it. I think he had to get 297 or more. Scott Blumstein put up nearly 400 in the same amount of time that I thought my cool self was lighting it up and only got to 250. He just absolutely obliterated all of us, and I laid minus 400. It's the worst bet I've ever made this year for starters, and getting hustled like I did, where he's like, it's got to go last. And I swear he went in early and told the kid to reset the high score lower. So I thought I was just I beat the high score by 103. Nope. Luckily, it was a small wager, all things considered.
That is a hustle. I
felt seen, man. It was bad.
What was the final tally you said?
He got to almost 400. I remember thinking he was at 350 before the final 30 seconds. It already beat it, and we were like, wow, he could really get to 400. And he got a little tired, and he didn't get to 400, but I think it was 390, 393, something.
Those things, when you put up shots, after the third or fourth round, you need to go take a break. Well, I shoot on the real range ones.
They were chirping at me when I was in the third or fourth round of the shooting. They're like, "Are you getting winded? You get tired?" I was like, "Actually, now that you mention it, yeah, my arm's getting a little bit." It didn't matter. And then I talked to a few people after. We're joking around about it, And a friend of mine's like, well, he was on some like poker documentary thing. If you were sharp, you would have remembered that there was like a Pop-A-Shot in the poker house, and they would just play on it like every day. So anyway, I thought it was a good story. I haven't been hustled in a long time. I've been stiffed. I've been stiffed pretty frequently, but I haven't been hustled in a long time. So that was a good one. So thanks for asking. You reminded me. We'll get back into some betting discussion, but I thought it was a good story, and it just happened last weekend. All right. We're going to go Qwan fades, and then we're going to get into the Texans, and then we'll wrap up. 661-515-BETS if you do have a call, but the floor is Qwan's. We're going to let him tell us what we are fading today.
Today, we are talking. Yesterday, first, let's start with that. I gave you Terrence Mann over 13.5.
Yes, you did.
I gave you
Atlanta Hawks plus 2.5 series games and over 5.5 games in the series.
And I'm fine with that. I'm really excited about that. I want to see Hawks, Bucks. I do not trust the Bucks to be consistent and win in the playoffs. So that means that this year they're going to get over the hump. So congratulations to the Milwaukee Bucks. Today, I saw a prop. You guys know, every time I bring it up to Preston, he asks me, what are we doing for Qwan Face today? And I do my best to avoid any Detroit sports or former Detroit players. But it never really works out that way. I saw a prop. Reggie Jackson, 2.5 threes. I'm going to put my faith in Reggie Jackson. I've been listening to Preston.
How many times when you were in Detroit as a Pistons fan have you ever said, I'm going to put my faith in Reggie Jackson?
You don't even got to finish the sentence. Not one time have I said.
I actually have a cool stat. I know we like to have fun on this show. It's way more laid back, but cool, like analytics stat, whatever. This season, I'm going to pull it up because I want to get it exact. But this season, this will blow you away. When you're looking at points per, generally you think points per possession. We're talking isolation possessions, at least 50 this regular season plus postseason. Oh, I hear a call. That means that everyone's hearing the call, I believe. You can answer it. Let's talk. What's up? This is Preston Johnson from Last Word Cheetah. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Who are we talking to?
Jake.
Jake, how's it going? Let us know if you have a game tonight that you like, or if you just want to tell us about a degenerate gambling story when you were sweating your stream on a date or at a wedding or something like that.
Oh, don't got any real stories. I was just calling in about the Suns tonight. I like the Suns.
Okay. This is good because I've been very, very Clippers heavy. Tell us why you like Phoenix. Like, what do you see? Obviously, no Chris Paul either. What do you think happens tonight?
Honestly, I just think Ayton has a big game. I think he tears it up down in the paint. I like his over on the points as well.
Beautiful. All right. So we'll go. Do you know what his points number is off the top of your head?
I think it was 15. I can check real quick here. 15.5. But
do you have a preference? Would you rather lay minus 4.5 or go over the 8 points prop? Because we do keep track of the callers. I should remind everybody, if you have the most wins at the end of the month, we give away this cash here in this jar, which right now I believe is sitting at $600. So Jake, we'll track your pick. If you just got to choose your favorite for today, if you have a preference.
The Suns.
Okay, so lay the 4.5. With Phoenix. Big game from Ayton. Little side pick there from Jake. But, yeah, we'll mark you down. We'll lock it in. Appreciate the call.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep, man. Take it easy. Okay, I know we need to get back into – oh, man, this is not – okay, so I'm not going to be able to find it as quick as I hoped. But here we go. We're talking isolation possessions, at least 50 in the regular season, the postseason. So of the players that qualify,
don't you dare
not points per possession,
don't you dare
points per chance, which there's a difference. Points per chance means when you're in isolation. Points per possession is when you shoot. How many points do you actually get every time you shoot in ISO? Points per chance includes the times like you're dribbling defenders off, you kick it out, and you're getting assisted. Now remember, the Clippers just like set a massive, like one of the historically great 3-point shooting teams. So it includes all the times Reggie Jackson is dribbling off, kicking it out to corner threes to Morris and whoever else, Paul George. The list is like number 2, Steph, 3, Durant, 4, Dame. It's like the 2 through 10 is like, all 9 perfectly line up. Number 1 this season, 1.2 points per chance. Reggie damn Jackson. Former Detroit Pistons great. Look at that face. But then what has he done all playoffs? Same stuff. He's figured it out. I decided he is probably the most undervalued player. He shot over 43% from 3. On catch and shoot threes, he's over 45%, which Kawhi and Paul George get him a ton. And then he's in ISO. He literally is the most efficient player in the NBA this year on at least a minimum bar of possessions. Levine was also in there. Maybe that was the next weirdest one. Levine was 9th or 10th out of 10, but everyone knows now Levine had a monster year. Reggie Jackson, most underrated player in the league, potentially. Now you're looking at over 2.5 threes. I was just trying to talk you into it even more.
You made me mad.
Now you're like, he's dude.
Now I want him to fail. Number 1 on points per chance, or what is it?
Points per chance. Yep.
That's
in ISO.
Yeah, man. Like he's not a number 1 or a number 2. He's a good role player. He can get you buckets. It's just in the clutch, man. I've never seen. It's those players that can have a moment. He's not one of those guys. So you just want him to be a role player. And tonight, I want him to hit over 2.5 threes.
Now we need to discuss. It's not 2.5 necessarily. When the juice is minus 150, we got to tell people that's a little bit different than minus 110. So I'm going to be tracking that because I'm not going to let you just sit here doing Qwan fades. If you're laying minus 150, minus 200 after we made the bet that you're going to have to put $100 in here, or I'm going to have to do a TikTok dance whether you finish 500 or not. So I'm keeping track of if you bet these minus 150s too regularly. But I did look at this. Look, since Kawhi went out, Reggie Jackson in the last 3 games has attempted on average 9 3-point attempts per game. This season he shot over 43% from 3. Again, out of isolation, he's been great. His usage is going up just because there is no Kawhi Leonard. I ran a probability distribution based on some of those expected numbers. Again, this is if he is. You're struggling over there. His face. He's not sure where I'm going with this yet. But I haven't even mentioned the math yet.
You said probability.
Yeah, that's just that's what it's called.
I know words.
Here's
math.
Those are 2 words that mean
probability distribution is math.
Here's what it comes down to. If he attempts around 9, which is the expectation after Kawhi's been out, that's where he's been at on average the last 3 games. He actually shot 12 in game 1 against the Suns. He made 4 of them. It's one of his worst shooting games from 3 in a long time. It's way ahead still to go over 2.5, even at minus 150. So that means he has to go over 2.5 at least 60% of the time for it to be a profitable bet. I think it is. So I agree with you. I just need to break it down a little more mathematically than, hey, I remember watching him when I lived in Detroit, and he wasn't very good, but now he's good, so I'm going to go for 2.5.
Listen, man, if you catch me on this show saying probability distribution, something's wrong. Probability distribution is all Preston. I can't do any of that.
Real quick before we jump to a little NFL, Houston Texans talk, because we are going to start breaking down some teams, some futures. We're starting at the bottom. We're working our way up. We're going to talk some Texans. But first, do you want to officially do a Booker over-under now that you've had the last 20 minutes to kind of mull it over a little longer for your Qwan fades? Or are we just going to go with Reggie Jackson?
Is there a probability distribution that you can run? That's the word of the day, probability distribution.
I have not run any numbers on Devin Booker, but everyone else I talked to thinks it should be like 29-ish, not 31.5. So
I think 31.5 is for game 2. It's not that much pressure. They're at home, right?
Yeah.
I think somebody like who is it? Jake said, Aiden steps up, has a big night. Ty Lue's gonna adjust. You said it. Ty Lue is good at adjustments. You see that. I don't see the Clippers winning game. I looked at Ty Lue's record. Like, he does lose a lot of game 1 and 2.
He's the best at it.
If it's not like LeBron in Cleveland and they're facing crumb bums, he hasn't really won the first 2 games of any series. I think there was one, maybe Toronto or something one year. But he's not good at game 2. He makes adjustments. But I think he adjusts on Booker and somebody else has to win night. So I'm taking Devin Booker and the under. And that's the second Qwan fade for today.
Okay, so you're going with the under officially. Yeah. We can mark you down for that. I was going to pull up real quick the player prop real quick for DeAndre Ayton because I promised Jake I would, and then I didn't do it while he was calling. It is 15.5. So for those, again, he locked in the Suns at -4.5. But if you're looking at Ayton, he liked the over. It's 15.5 most spots. I looked at 3, but we'll say all of them are 15.5. So I imagine that's where it's at. You ready to go talk a little football?
Him?
Ayton?
Yeah.
Well, here, real quick, let's pull up some of the minutes that we got from Zubac and Cousins. Because this is what's amazing to me. Do we want to just run the clip from yesterday about Ty Lue now that I'm thinking it through again? I'm just going to say the same thing. We didn't talk about the Ayton and the big guy stuff. But they go the entire Utah series after basically game 1.5 and 2. They just go small. Zubac played, I think, 8 minutes. Cousins didn't see the floor at all. And now, and this is Rudy Gobert. If you're going to play a big to try to, hang with Rudy, why would you play a big to hang with Ayton? And then what did they do? Zubac played 18 minutes. Cousins played 13 minutes. They played 31 minutes of bigs when they'd been playing about 8 minutes of bigs and going small most of the time. So I don't think they're going to go 31 minutes, which kind of makes me, if you're zagging to the, hey, Ty Lue's going to play his best 8, which is I think they have to tonight if they're going to have a chance to win this series. No Chris Paul again. You have to win this game in Phoenix. If that's the case and they go smaller, then doesn't it mean Ayton has more opportunity to take advantage? It does. So I don't mind Jake's thought process. I'm not sure if he went through all of that. But now that we're sitting here kind of looking at it, thinking about it, you expect that the Clippers are going to go small more frequently, less Zubac and less Cousins. Here we are. I think Ayton might be the bright play. I like it. You're going to add it to your Qwan fades real quick?
Listen, we can have some caller-assisted Qwan fades. I like when Jake's talking.
Okay. All right, 15.5.
15.5?
Yeah, it's plus 100 on the 15.5 over. So it's about right. Fair enough. Cool. You ready to talk Texans? We're gonna pivot to NFL. We haven't done any NFL discussion yet on the show.
Let's go.
All right, let's put up the prices that we have seen on Houston. One of the weirdest off seasons we've seen in the league, period, I think, in some time. 300 to 1 looks like the best price you can get here in the United States on the Texans to win the Super Bowl. How much have you bet on that so far?
$0.
0. Okay, well done. AFC 100 to 1. AFC South 28 to 1. Something weird in the division, maybe 28 to 1. No.
Whole lot of drugs.
The season win total. So it is 4. It looks like at BetMGM, DraftKings offering a 4.5. I will say the 4.5 at DraftKings. The under, I looked right before the show started. It's -159. So when we make these graphics, he pulls the best number available. No juice there, so I want to just kind of let people know. Look, if you go to DraftKings and 4.5, it's -159, which is basically a 4 anyway. So this team's win total is 4. There's an extra game this season that's going to be played. I don't know if you remember that. They're playing 17. The only way you lose this bet is if they go 3-14 or worse, which I feel like 2 years ago, everyone was talking about how the Miami Dolphins were going to be historically bad. They accidentally ran into some wins and ended up going over their win total. Well, I don't remember exactly. It was did they end up getting to 5 or 6? Yeah, they won 5. Okay, and that ended up, I believe, if you bet it early, the season win total in Las Vegas was 5. It closed 4, similar to where the Texans are at. This is what I'm getting at. Even that Dolphins team that was making trades like they were just totally rebuilding, the process, Philadelphia 76ers style, still went over 4. And you got a quarterback, if Deshaun Watson doesn't play, there's a ton of stuff going on. He either doesn't want to play, he wants to get traded. There's the other allegations, separate deal we don't even need to talk about. But you have Tyrod Taylor coming in, who I was looking up some numbers before we hit play, and we're going to hear from Qwan in a bit. He has some experience playing football. He can tell us what's going to happen here with Houston. But I was like, man, I remember in Buffalo, he had that nice stint. He played 3 seasons. He played the majority of the games. His completion percentage was about 63% during those 3 seasons. They were 8-6 in 2017, 8-6 and made the playoffs behind Tyrod Taylor. Do you know who led that Buffalo Bills team that Tyrod Taylor led to the playoffs? Who led that team in receiving yards?
A bunch of crumb bumps.
Charles Clay, the tight end, 558 receiving yards. Next, do you know? Next less?
No clue.
LaShawn McCoy, running back, 448 receiving yards. The leading receiver on that team was supposed to be Kelvin Benjamin. I believe they made a trade with the Panthers. He gets hurt. He only plays about 5 games. Deontay Thompson, I don't even think he's in the league anymore. He had 430 yards. We're talking about the fourth leading receiver on this team. That year that Tyrod Taylor took him to the playoffs. Nick O'Leary, backup tight end. The next best receiver was Zay Jones, played 15 games. He caught 27 passes for 300 yards.
I remember this. This is insane.
They went to the playoffs.
Yeah. 1 year.
Tyrod Taylor. And then he goes over to Cleveland. He plays a couple games. He gets hurt. Baker Mayfield takes over. Then he's been backing up for the Chargers. This is the 2017 year in Buffalo. Tyrod Taylor went 8-6 as a starter. And they ended up making the playoffs. I think, is it the year that they lost like a 6-3 playoff game? It was really, really low scoring.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, so it was extremely low score. I think it was 6-3 maybe with Jacksonville or something that year. But I kind of like Tyrod Taylor. Can you get to 4 wins? You're pushing 5-12. You're winning money. You think this is a 3-win team or worse often enough that you'd bet under?
The addition of the extra game helps. Tyrod Taylor cannot win you a game. He can keep you in the game. He can manage.
What did you? I was going to say. You told me that before we went live.
He's not going. They're a quarterback. Like for me in football, it's a quarterback driven game. No matter what. That's what I'm going to say time and time again. I've been saying it on this channel since I started it. Tyrod Taylor will not win you a game. He can lose you a game, but he'll keep you in the game. And I think that's how that Bills team probably made the playoffs with a lot of defense and him not making turnovers. So this Houston team, they're bad. They don't have any weapons. They lost their anchor from the last couple years in J.J. Watt, which he wasn't the same player he was from the mid 2000s or mid 2010s and everything, but just nothing. And then there's turmoil in the front office. The way they brought the coach in with Deshaun, it's just. All of that extracurricular never translates to anything good on the field. So that's a major disruption. 4 wins in the NFL.
Like you even said yourself, you were looking at the week 1 schedule. It's
crazy.
It's like a pick'em game.
Yeah.
Like week 1 against Jacksonville, they win that game. And now you only need 3 more wins out of 16 games.
Again.
And you play them again. I will say, I was telling Qwan earlier, strength of schedule based on the Vegas forecasted win totals. They have the 3rd toughest schedule in the league. So that's part of it. Obviously, if they were playing an easier schedule, this would probably be more like 4.5 or 5. But it is on the more difficult side. So it's tough. But I don't want to be like too contrarian. Obviously, I'm not betting them to win the Super Bowl or NFC, even the division. I think to make the playoffs, you can get like plus 650 range. I wouldn't go there. But I think they can get to 4 wins. Enough. Obviously, you're only pushing up 4. You have to kind of little distribution there on the bell curve, like 0 through 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 through 17. They're not winning 17. But I like the Texans side. So I'm against you. I'm going to trust the weird process.
That's not a process at all. That's just
Let me ask you, because we don't have to be, I guess, that politically correct on this show, but and I don't want to like talk about the allegations with Deshaun Watson and investigating like what are the probabilities of him actually playing a game, but now I actually do. What's the chances that Watson actually plays games, because he was one of the best quarterbacks under center last year in the entire league despite the lack of help. If he plays games, then this is, I mean, you have there is some sort of upside there, right? Maybe it's only 10%. Maybe it's even less than that. But
I think this is how it goes with stars. Like you said, we don't have to be politically correct. Deshaun Watson is a star. So not to say that his off-the-field issues shouldn't keep him – they should keep him off the field or anything. But you got to guess that he's going to play. Like it's not going to be a completely lost season. Maybe they postpone it or I don't know how crimes work. I be in my house. But he's going to play. And I think that's the thing that's going to give them the edge to win more than 4. It just depends upon if he doesn't play 17, if he doesn't play 10.
Well, yeah, I think for sure he'll be probably suspended regardless to some extent, even if he is allowed to play. Then it comes into question, does he even want to play? Because he had said he wants to get traded. He doesn't want to play. But I feel like this happening since has kind of now, he has some sort of sense of I need to prove it, or I have something to prove still. And if he's allowed to play, let's say he's suspended 10 games, he's allowed to play the last 7. They're not going to do a trade there. Is it really I think maybe he decides, hey, I'll play these 7 games, see where things are at the end of the year. Maybe if I play well, the trade market's better. I have a better chance of getting out of Houston if that's the case, rather than just sitting out the whole year. I don't know. I kind of feel like now the chances, because of everything else that's happened off the field, of him playing since saying he didn't want to play, or maybe increased, assuming he's allowed to. I don't know.
I think he will.
I think 4. If he plays 7 games, 4's too low. That's just what it is.
It depends on what 7 games, because that's
the last 7.
That's schedule.
It would be the last 7. He's just probably suspended the first 10. I'm just pulling 10 out of nowhere. It could be 6. It could be 12. It could be 8.
Roger Goodell.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's the most Roger Goodell's given? Josh Gordon?
Probably for
and that's
like 6 or 7 times for marijuana. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm intrigued though. I love analyzing like the really, really bad. Even that Dolphins season a couple of years back, I had friends, sharp guys I talked to, that hurry and bet Dolphins under season wins correctly. Even though for a lot of them they ended up pushing or losing like at 4.5. But I also know some people that were like, all right, 4 is kind of crazy. 3.5 maybe was even popping at juice. And so they actually ended up winning. So you kind of get 2 different sides. And at some point, just like the way these games, the win distributions, it's really hard to only win 2 or 3 games in the NFL. Just weird stuff happens. And Tyrod Taylor, we talked him up. I like Tyrod.
All you got to do
game
is
manage.
Not lose it.
All he does is manage 17 games or fewer if Deshaun gets to play some.
Do you have the schedule pulled up?
I can pull it up.
We
got no rush.
Name me the wins.
Okay. All right. This is like the old school radio where they go through, that's a win. It. That's a loss. So it's just like, doesn't ever mean anything, and I usually make fun of this stuff, but now we're going to do it. All right. What are you talking about week 1 against? Were you looking at – oh, no, okay. They had preseason games listed here. I was like, Jacksonville at home. Yeah, that's for sure win. Tyrod Taylor,
easy.
No problem.
I don't understand the Urban Meyer love already.
It's obviously not a for sure win. I'm joking. It's probably about a 50% win. Man, but I'm doing the old school. You just got to call them out. At Cleveland, loss. Home to Carolina. Tricky spot for Carolina there. Week 3, they're supposed to be better. Sam Darnold, who knows where he's at? He'll probably have mono by week 3. That's a win for Houston. That's 2 wins. Then they go into Buffalo.
Anybody in Carolina.
They go into Buffalo, week 4. Revenge game. Tyrod Taylor going into Buffalo. Upset of the season. The Texans start 3-1 this year. Again, the season win total is only 4. So we got to get one more win to push this bet. New England at home. Look, let down spot. Off the upset in Buffalo, Tyrod Taylor revenge game. They're going to lose to the Patriots. Then they have to go to Indianapolis, much better team. Division rivalry game, the Colts are going to win that. All right, you got Carson Wentz. He's going to be a god this year. Something happened in Philadelphia. I don't know what it was, but I'm sorry to Philly fans. It's just rough to be a Philadelphia fan in sports right now. Then they have to go to Arizona. Tough game. Probably losing that one too. Rams at home, they hang, but not enough. They lose that one too. So this 3-1 start from the Texans has now turned into 3-2, 3-3, 3-4, 3-5. Everyone's like, here we go. Look, the Texans, they're tanking for whoever is, and Houston's going to maybe pull that one out. So that could be 4. They get Jets at home, and they still get to play the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road. That Miami, that Jets, that Jacksonville game, that's enough to get to at least 4, maybe 5. Maybe 6. Who is it? Who?
Rudolph from Michigan.
Oh, Ruddock. Maybe. Yeah. The Michigan. How do these Michigan quarterbacks, these Big Ten quarterbacks that are so bad in college, somehow?
Chad Henne was around for a long time.
The what's the word?
Journeyman.
It's not journeyman. Like the connotation, just the common stipulation on these Big Ten quarterbacks is, but they're pro-style quarterbacks because they're playing the Big Ten and they saw great defenses. And somehow they always get a couple years as backups in the NFL. He was not good at Michigan. I don't know how he's the backup. So there you go. There you go. That's 4 wins right there. Texans are going to be 4-5, 9 games in. Then they have their bye week, and then they probably reassess and wow, we gotta punt to tank for whoever it is, and they probably drop 7 of the next 8 or something. But yeah, we're getting there. And the big one, man, I'm telling you, don't overlook the Tyrod Taylor revenge game in Buffalo.
I don't believe it.
October 3rd.
I don't believe it.
Revenge game.
I don't believe it. I'm going to put this camera on me. Texans under. That's it.
All right, we'll see. I'm going to be excited to follow all these NFL teams as we go each day, breaking them down. But then as obviously the season's going along, we're going to remember, hey, we got to call at the buzzer.
We got Patrick calling in.
Patrick, what's up, man? How you doing? Welcome to Last Word Cheetah.
Hey,
this is Preston. Tell us what you want to talk about. You got a game for us tonight that you're liking?
Hey, Preston, it's Patrick. Hey, you know what? You guys have been dumping on Houston. I'm going to bring some positivity to Houston.
Okay.
I haven't been dumping on Houston.
Teams. Well, actually, that's true. You weren't. You actually have a more positive spin than anybody I've heard on Houston.
Thank you.
Houston
Continue.
So far. But anyway, I like the team total over 5.5 for the Astros tonight against the Orioles.
Ooh.
I mean, this offense is absolutely on fire. I mean, the WRC plus over the last 7 days, I think it's like in the 150s. Number 1 against right-handers. Number 1 away from home. And Orioles bullpen has been a dumpster fire over the last week. I think their whips around 1.9, ERA 7.8. And Jorge Lopez is a starter. I mean, his FIP's terrible. All his peripheries are bad. And the Astros have scored over 6 runs. And it's like 8 out of the last 9 games. So though I think the only game they did not score over 6 runs was when they were facing Rodon and the White Sox, who's been on fire this year. So it seems like a very square play, but that's what I like tonight.
I mean, it might not be square. You sound like a Houston fan. Then, if you were referencing the Texans, maybe he's from Houston.
He's been in the chat talking.
Okay.
He said
okay.
Tebow scores 3 touchdowns week 1 versus the Texans.
3? You could probably get a very, very good price on that. Shop around. I don't know if sportsbooks are offering that prop yet. But they should. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, you gotta love Tim Tebow.
You do not have.
I mean, he's probably a good person.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I love the guy.
I think the reason he's on that team is to take some of the heat off Trevor Lawrence. I think that's the only reason he's on the team. Because who's everybody talking about? Talking about
that's interesting.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like just kind of the publicity mentality read on there. Yeah. That definitely could be the case.
Draw ticket sales.
Real quick, I'm going to go back to your pick. Patrick, I'm not sure if you've called him before, if we have his Twitter handle or not. We do? All right, cool. Then we'll make sure we lock it in.
I don't know if you have my Twitter.
Okay, hit us with your Twitter real quick.
I've called him before. Well, yeah, I'll send it in the chat.
Perfect. You can say it in the chat, or you can even just DM me, and we'll make sure we track it for the leaderboard for the month. But Jorge Lopez, he was right. ERA nearly 6, but his fielding independent pitching 5.3. His xFIP's a little better, but he gives up a ton of homers, and he gives up a lot of Ks. Walks.
Yeah, and the umpiring matchup, it's favorable to the over. I think Ted Barrett, he slightly leans to the over. And weather shouldn't be a factor.
Yep.
I mean,
I was just looking
in Baltimore, the ball flies anyway. So it's all signs point to an over. Well, at least the team total over. I don't necessarily trust the Baltimore offense. That's why I'm looking to the team total over as opposed to full game over.
Cool. Thanks, Patrick. We actually have another caller coming in right now, too. So we will lock you in for that on the Astros over 5.5 in Baltimore. Do we have the other caller up? Is he ready? Welcome to Last Word Cheetah. How's it going?
Hey, Preston, this is Kyle. I've called in the past. I was wondering if I could submit a pick on a player prop. I didn't know
Let's do it. Yeah, we're not on time constraints here. We're not actually on the radio. There's no 2:00 sign off. So break it down for us. Tell us which one you want to lock down for today.
So it's actually gonna kind of side with Qwan, man. I'm gonna go with with Reggie Jackson, and I'm I'm gonna go with Reggie Jackson over 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
Ooh.
He's cleared it. He's cleared it in the last 3 games. I think with Kawhi out, it's going to open up a little bit more opportunity for him to score, especially with Morris. I think Morris is a little banged up. Didn't he leave last game a little early?
Yes, that is true.
And I think I'm gonna go with Reggie Jackson. I think he's gonna have a little bit more opportunity to showcase some scoring.
That's 26.5 is the number for points, rebounds, and assists. Just to give people, again, since Kawhi in Game 5 against Utah, he totaled 27. In Game 6 against Utah, he totaled 40. And then in Game 1 against Phoenix, he totaled 34. So he has gone over that number the last 3 times. Maybe Morris is beat up a little bit. Did you hear by chance the breakdown on Reggie Jackson in isolation this year? Were you listening in earlier?
No, I must have missed that.
All right, no problem. So I'm gonna break it down for you. You'll like this, and anyone that's tuning in here at the end. This season, in isolation, for players that had at least 50 tries, regular season and the playoffs, usually you look at points per possession in isolation. Looking at points per chance, which includes the times that the person is in isolation and then gets to pass it off. So in this case, Reggie Jackson breaking down defenses, passing it out to the Clippers who hit a bunch of threes, right? They had like an all-time historic three-point shooting percentage as a team. Number 2, KD and Steph was 3, Dame was 4. Everyone you think 2 through 10 this season, you'd be like, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. Reggie Jackson was number 1. Got number 1 this year, 1.2 points per chance, including the times he gets to pass it off, including the times he shoots, shot over 43% from 3. I told DeQwan earlier on the show, I said he was the most underrated player in the NBA this year. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Let's go.
So I hope you're right. It backs you up. It definitely does. And he's gotten there the last 3 games anyway. Appreciate the call. We'll lock you in for that. And, yeah, good luck this month trying to run it up. I think you already have 1 win. I think you've been on the board before.
Right on. Thank you, Preston.
Yeah, man. Take it easy.
We got one more caller. Carlos, I believe. Right.
Carlos? Carlos from yesterday? The Carlos that wanted to play Betting Extraordinaire. Is he still trying to play again? How's it going?
I am here. I'm here, Preston. I didn't want to talk to you yesterday. Nothing personal, but I want to talk to you today.
All good. All good. I appreciate the honesty.
Nothing personal. Couple things. Definitely want to take Vegas tonight. The Golden Knights got to win. It's just, they got to win. If they don't win, something's wrong. As far as Houston's prop with Houston, take the over any given Sunday. Tyrod Taylor, serviceable quarterback. It's easy. You know what I'm saying? It's over. I'm going to go to William Hill here in D.C. and go bet that today, matter of fact.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so for one thing, it's awesome now that I have 2 callers and, me, which are probably the only 3 Texans fans that exist, somehow have been on this show in the last 10 minutes. But I agree. I like the Texans over as well. Khan's against me. He's gone the other way.
I'm not a Texans fan, by the way. I'm a football team fan. But
sure.
I like to win future bets. So that's a good future bet that I'm going to put in now.
You got to do what you got to do. Value is value. Kwan's sitting over here just can't believe it, shaking his head.
I can't believe people are saying positive things about Tyrod Taylor.
Do you want to go through it again?
He's
I told
not
you.
Bad, but he's not
Charles
bad.
Clay was his leading receiver, and he led that team to the playoffs.
He's a man.
He's a serviceable quarterback.
He's a serviceable quarterback, but you got to be serviceable on a good team. Like you can't have bad players on your team and maintain your serviceability.
Hey, real quick, Carlos, I have to ask you a question before we lock you in for the leaderboard for June. You want to lock in the Vegas Knights? The difference is that they're laying, like minus 222 to minus 240. I'm looking at the screen right now. Are you willing to lay 1.5 goals at plus money? You can get plus 132, or do you want to just lay the minus 220? All right. So this is going to be a blowout for Vegas, you think?
I mean, a minus 1.5. Yeah, we'll do that.
Perfect. We'll lock you in for plus money. I appreciate the call, Carlos.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, man, take it easy.
Tyrod Taylor.
I'm getting a Tyrod Taylor jersey now, just for every
don't hang it up
every Friday show where we talk over the weekend games, or if we do a Sunday morning show. I don't know. We can do whatever we want. I'm getting a Tyrod Taylor jersey though. We should order that right now. By the way, I know we're supposed to be wrapping up. The last word. We do a last word at the end of every episode. Either if we have a guest giving the last word, or if not, it's usually mine. Are you going to play that clip from yesterday? Do you have it ready, or no? If you don't, it's all good. I can tell them it's the last word. I'm giving you guys the last word. It is going to be painful. All right? I just bashed the guy earlier on the show for 10 minutes. My sources, I don't really have sources, but the ones that I pretend to have, the feeling, the sentiment around Game 2 in Phoenix is that Chris Paul will likely not play. And if that's the case, +6 on the Clippers. That is my last word today. It's too much value. I expect Ty Lue, even if he does play 10 guys for some odd reason, it's still a Suns team that is young, that probably won't get a 39-point triple-double from Devin Booker, and that won't have Chris Paul on the floor most likely. So it's a little bit of a gamble because there is some uncertainty with Chris Paul. But +6 for this Clippers team that did what they did against Utah, that has made adjustments throughout these past 2 series. This is their chance. I have to go to the well one more time. There it is. That was yesterday's. This is why you should listen to the show if you can, right? +6 on the Clippers. Pretty good value. Now it's 4.5 across the board. I'm not going to force a last word pick for you tonight because we are sweating already from yesterday. The Clippers, I thought the 6 was too good to pass up on. I didn't want to wait till today. Sure enough, it's 4.5. So I'm not going to put another last word in until, this was at least my plan, in my little rundown I made, I said, no last word. Preach bankroll management and patience and not forcing bets. But now, like, my last word, 300 to 1 on the Texans to win the Super Bowl?
Come on.
300 to 1?
Come on.
You remember Kevin from The Office?
Anytime
He said-
you get 300 to 1.
I think he said 10,000 to 1 on
10,000.
anything. You take it. 300 to 1's getting kind of close.
Who's supposed to win the Oscar for him to win that?
Something Mellencamp?
John Cougar Melleck.
Yeah, there you go. That was going through my head now just while we were watching that last
Are we
one.
laying
No,
some-
don't bet the Texans to win the Super Bowl. There's no last word, but I really am hoping for 4 wins now or more for Houston. Whew. That's it. Well done. Good job today, Qwan. I appreciate it. That is today's show, Last Word Cheetah. We appreciate the 4 or 5 of you that gave us a call. Hopefully you guys cash your bets tonight. We'll be back same time tomorrow, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. This is Last Word Cheetah, brought to you by BetsTV. See you guys later.